Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, if you're just joining us, you're watching the Daily Roundup on your home channel and BC1. Now, we'll start with our first interview. The International Association of Insurance Supervisors is hosting their Sub-Saharan Africa Regional Seminar from the 27th to the 31st of May 2024. The seminar is set to take place in the capital city, Windhoek, under the theme, Closing the Gaps for a Sustainable, Inclusive and Resilient Insurance Industry. To unpack, we are now joined by Mr. Eric Garisep, the General Manager of Insurance at NAMFISA. Very good evening to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Such a pleasure. It's fairly day 2 now of the conference so far. How has it been since day 1?
Oh, it's been great, but tiring. When you sit in the room for that long, it can get tiring, but I think the content is so rich that it is actually keeping everybody engaged throughout the 2 days. And we are looking forward to the next 3 more days.
Absolutely. Now, if you look at, how regulatory bodies like NAMFISA collaborate with industry stakeholders to promote sustainability for inclusivity in the insurance sector, how is that being undertaken right now? Well,
I think the one thing we have to acknowledge is that different countries are obviously at different phases and doing it differently.
Right.
There's no one brush or one size fits all approach here, but there's a nuanced approach. In Namibia as well, we definitely have been engaging our insurance regulated entities with regards to enhancing sustainability. This is actually coming through various facets. I don't know if we've all heard about the terminology ESG,
right.
And it has been around for a very long time, and oftentimes now we think that ESG's environment is ESG, but environment is a third of the ESG.
Right.
Sustainability also talks about societal benefit, and sustainability also talks about governance implications and governance frameworks as well. So we have been engaging, I think, our entities on the other 2 fronts for a while, and I think it's now time that the environment part is actually starting to gain momentum.
Interesting. Let's talk about some of the key challenges facing insurance industry stakeholders to promote supervision in the sub-Saharan region, and how can these gaps be effectively addressed to enhance industry resilience?
Well, one of the things that we have successfully been doing over the last 2 days already is the identifying what are the priorities with regards to the gaps. The NAMFISA CEO has on Monday already given a call to action to address the gaps that exist in the financial the adoption of technology, adoption of financial technology, fintech, and subtech, supervisory technology. He has spoken about the aspect with regards to financial inclusion, which is something that he's very passionate about and wants us to basically start looking at ways of closing those gaps. He has spoken about capacity building, both within the insurance industry as well as within the regulatory authorities as well. And then we've also had discussions with aspects around stuff like IFRS 17, which is very topical, topical themes, governance, which is quite topical right now as well. But I think those other themes were actually the overarching themes of the seminar that we had so far.
All right. Let's just expand a bit on what you just said there. You spoke about technology, and there's a lot of innovation around technology and where the world is moving to right now. And let's talk about technology and innovation in bridging the gap, in promoting a more robust insurance ecosystem in the region. What are the developments in that area?
There's been great developments. I think, the pace at which technology is changing, even the pace itself is becoming faster.
Right.
So in the Namibian space, we have been, over the next 2 days actually, it's quite coincidental, over the next 2 days, starting on Thursday and Friday, we've got our regulatory sandbox in Windhoek as well. So it's open to the public as well. It's been advertised in the press. Yeah. This is actually one of the ways that NAMFISA is now saying, you know what, let's get a couple of the Namibian startups and entrepreneurs in a room and give them within a controlled environment, figure this whole test and play around with the technology that's available. Right. And like I said, it's a controlled environment. So obviously if you fail, you're failing forward.
Yeah.
And that's one. The other aspect is that we as regulators, we need to embrace technology because it will not just enhance the efficiencies with which we provide service to the public and to the regulated entities, but also it brings costs down,
and makes life easier.
It makes life easier, we can go back to being lazy eventually once technology comes in.
Indeed.
I'm kidding.
Let's talk about, some of these stakeholders. You mentioned local entrepreneurs from Namibia that are also attending this conference, or the seminar rather. Who are these other stakeholders that are also attending this conference, and how significant is it for them to be part of this seminar?
Well, we have regulated entities, regulators from a few African countries in the sub-Saharan region coming, which are already here. We have the Prudential Authority from South Africa. We've got NBFERA from Botswana. We've got IPEC from Zimbabwe. We've got the PIA from Zambia. Our RSA colleagues in Angola are also here. The Congolese colleagues are here. We've got colleagues from Seychelles, Kenya, Ghana. So it's roughly about, say, 10, 11 countries present in the sub-Saharan region. Obviously, the regional coordinator is the Commissioner for Insurance in Kenya, Mr. Godfrey Kiptum. He's also here. So it is actually, from the regulator side, we are well represented. Right. And then there's always the industry bodies. We've got the international partners, the International Association of Insurance Supervisors under the umbrella which is happening. But the Financial Stability Institute, also based in Basel, is also down here. And the various, our implementation partner, Access to Insurance, these guys have been very phenomenal in helping us implement some of the projects that we're trying to implement with the hope of achieving the desired results. And then there's also the industry. So the first 3 days is a closed session with regulators only. And the last 2 days is open with industry, where we can actually start having a conversation with each other as well and say, look, this is what we are thinking as regulators, and how can we collaborate with industry to achieve the desired outcome, and for that, potentially vice versa as well.
Absolutely. And I think it brings us to my next question, in terms of what NAMFESA is really trying to do in undertaking and promoting innovation and digital transformation within the insurance sector, and what impact do you, foresee these initiatives having on industry development and competitiveness? What's your take on that?
Well, the first thing is actually industry competitive. Digital information journey is going to help everybody. We are in a better position to detect fraud and wastage, for example. I mean, that's not just insurance, it's across the board. We are in a better position, for example, to also have a better service, providing a better service. Our engagement models are also driven by technology. The technology will also aid in containing and or reducing the compliance burden, because instead of manually filling in or sending Excel spreadsheets, over time we are going to move to a world with a more real-time, I'm hoping we get there one day, with a more real-time submission from the industry, or at least closer to a real-time submission. So all those things are going to increase the efficiencies, and we can also better safeguard the financial system in Namibia. Absolutely.
And speaking of efficiency, there is of course a lot of talk around the new digital platforms and in consumer protection when it comes to these kind of services. What's the insurance in that area to make sure that consumers are actually guaranteed of a very peculiar protection when it comes to digital platforms and the services that the NAMFESA will be offering?
I can mention that tomorrow is dedicated to technology in the seminar, and we're going to be sitting around the table with our colleagues from the Financial Stability Institute, our colleagues from the IAIS, and various other partners as well in the same room to also deliberate this. But because we are obviously aware of the threat of cybersecurity, cyber risk that we have. And it is a topic that we're going to be unpacking a lot here in the session. And everything will culminate, obviously, in having a regional plan that we're going to be implementing in how we're going to be rolling out various guardrails around cyber, because in cyber is not just somebody breaking into getting hold of your password, Cyber talks about your personal information as well. Yeah. Cyber is a whole thing about just giving you peace of mind, and I think we need to basically put up the guardrails, and there are some guardrails already, and also move towards a world where we can actually have better peace of mind around that. But it's going to be a journey. It's a journey. It's not an event.
Yeah, I want to take a small U-turn to what we just talked about a bit earlier. When it comes to sustainable development goals, how can the insurance industry play a more significant role in addressing climate-related risk and promoting more environmental sustainability in the region, especially looking at on the continent Africa?
Well, I would say there are three parts to that. I think there's what's happening in the short-term insurance space, which I think is probably dominating the conversations at present, and that's because those risks are actually staring us in our face. The droughts, the floods. We can already observe rains are coming late, rains are coming early. We got a flooding situation. I think it's in Kenya right now as well. So that's the first part. Is what's happening in that space is to provide the most. It's oftentimes you'll find that it's the most vulnerable that are the least protected to these risks. And insurance, as insurance companies, insurance industry, can provide solutions to mitigate these risks. Like, for example, if a drought comes, farmers can basically be insured by innovative solutions like what we call index insurance, for example. Then we are also on the life insurance side, and there is some work happening as well, because the life insurance side often accumulates substantial assets, and these assets have to be invested. So there's a certain degree of stakeholder activism that goes along with it. And you say, no, we're going to be investing our money in A, B, C, D, and we're not going to invest in this, but we're going to invest in that. So with that kind of an approach with the industry, I think they can also influence a certain outcome eventually with regards to sustainable development. And if the entities align to that, then I guess they can make decisions based on their values.
Mr. Garisab, we hope to, of course, engage you more on the new developments as the seminar unfolds. Thank you so much for making the time to talk to us this evening.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. All
right, the General Manager of Insurance at NAMFISA, Mr. Eric Garisab, was talking to us about the International Association of Insurance Supervisors that is hosting a sub-Saharan Africa Insurance regional seminar that is taking place, of course, starting from yesterday, the 27th of May, going on until the 31st of May in the capital, Windhoek, at Hilton Hotel. We have more interviews coming your way right here.